We will be diving into what it means to be contingent, what that means for you as a buyer, what that means for you when you are the seller, and kind of diving into the little details of what the potential options and what the potential scenarios are for that. Let's dive into it. My name is William Singh. I'm a local agent here in Portland, Oregon, and if you find any of this content helpful, it would be wonderful if you could like and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me and help get a little bit more reach with this channel. So what does contingent mean? The definition of contingent is a contingent offer on a house is an offer with a protective clause on behalf of the buyer. The contingency communicates that if the clause isn't met, the buyer has the right to back out of the purchase. This is when the sale of the buyer's current property is contingent on the sale for the future property or the property that they're looking to buy now. So if you've ever seen a bumpable buyer or a contingent buyer, it usually means that they are contingent on the sale of their current home in order to buy this home. Think of this as a step that is in between active and pending. So with this, there is the chance for a buyer or another buyer to come in and potentially take over that and become pending on that contract. So just something to kind of keep in mind, and we'll be diving into what that means for a buyer in this situation. What does this contingent or being contingent mean for buyers? Now, this is one of those things where you have two different cases. One where you are the buyer who is contingent on the sale of your current property, and then another is going to be when you are the buyer, you see that this is a bumpable buyer and you are wanting to put an offer on this house. This brings up the bump clause, and this is where that buyer who is not contingent can put in an offer onto the home that has the bumpable buyer. Now, this is one of those things where the bumpable buyer will then have usually anywhere between 48 to 72 hours max to remove that clause and remove the bump clause or that contingency. So with that, they basically had that first right of refusal, and let's say that they do remove that contingency. Then it goes from bumpable buyer to pending, and that means that they're currently under contract, and that buyer that came in would no longer be able to purchase that property because the contract between the seller and the buyer has been more solidified. So just kind of keep that in mind. However, if it goes the opposite way of saying, hey, we can't remove this bumpable contingency, then the seller can then accept the other offer, and the buyer that was originally under contract or as a bumpable buyer would then be removed. So just something to kind of keep in mind, that you have those two potential scenarios that would be playing out. Now for sellers, when you are looking at these offers and you see that it is potentially contingent on the sale of the buyer's current home, just know that there are potential risks. So for example, if that home doesn't sell in a timeline that fits with yours, then you might have some potential issues or have to push out that close date. Now, this is something where, depending on where the market's at, this might not be as big of an issue, or you just need to set those expectations of if it is going to take a longer time and it's more of a buyer's market, you might have to wait for a longer period of time to actually get that close done. Now, there are obviously risks to this in the sense that if that bumpable buyer can't sell their home in a timely fashion, then it is problematic. And you're also wanting to take a look at, for that bumpable buyer, as to whether or not they have already prepped and are already on the market or not, and kind of seeing where they're at in that selling stage. If they haven't gotten ready for selling, then they have probably a potential for having a longer time to actually sell that place. So just things to kind of keep in mind and factors to keep in mind when you are looking at offers, and something where usually contingent buyers will probably push the price up a little bit because you're taking on that risk. So just something to kind of keep in mind. And if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to reach out. I'll make sure to have my contact information down below. And if you found any of this content helpful, it would be wonderful if you could like and subscribe. And thanks so much for watching.